And we are ready. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Whoops. Would help if I shared this when I just started up. Let's try that again.
Well, it says it's live on YouTube.
Well, it helps if you're sharing something, if you actually remember to use the sharing tool.
The video.
Boing, boing, boing. Oh, what a week. Okay. Let's see. Share computer sound. Here we go. And hello, everybody. Welcome to episode, I think, 22. I may be wrong, but I think it's episode 22. Yeah, I hope it's episode 22, or we'll sound really foolish, of Apple World TV, Apple World Today TV, AWT TV. It was a long day. I did a podcast this afternoon that went way long, and as a result, I didn't get the regular daily news update done. So, like I said, it's been a long day. How are you doing, Marty?
Doing fine. I'm back to the land of the living. Had pneumonia last week, but made the podcast.
But yes, you did.
I was crippled, but made it along. Not 100%, but I feel so much better. It's been a great week, and it's summer here. It hit a little over 92 yesterday, 91.6 the day before. We're late summer, to say the least.
Yeah, we're actually we're kind of going between fall and summer. Like today, I think it got up to 92. Yesterday,
that's pretty warm.
Yeah, it was actually pretty cool, and it's been doing that. This is typical Colorado fall. We're planning, my lovely spouse and I are planning on going up to the mountains this weekend, and they're actually looking at possibly having some snow up there. But, when you're at 10,000 feet, yeah, you expect it.
Right. But it's been a good week. It's been a busy week. I mean, we covered it last week, but we just had the release of the new equipment, and iOS released today. And so quite busy.
Yeah, I tell you, they're getting better and better and better at getting this stuff out exactly at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And we used to joke about it because, probably 5-6 years ago, you'd say, it's about, 10 o'clock Pacific time that they release. And it could be anywhere from 3 to 4 hours afterwards, and you'd finally see stuff coming up. And it always used to be very regional, too. I talked to people who were in places like, New York City or someplace like that, big, huge population center, and they'd get them like that. It'd just be boom, and they'd be in. And then, us in the flyover states, we'd have to wait a while. And now it was funny because it was like right at 10 p.m. Pacific time, I was sitting there tapping on my iPhone, and boom, up it comes, started the download, went and grabbed my iPad Pro, started the download. iPad Pro went through like that. The iPhone was a little bit slower, but not bad. This thing took forever. This is, of course, first gen or original Apple Watch, and it took forever to get to watchOS 4. But it seems to actually be much snappier now in terms of the way it's operating. So that was a good thing.
Well, I'm like you. Oh, yeah, I was sitting there at 10 a.m. Pacific, and 12 here. Hit refresh, and I mean, as soon as it hit the top of the hour, it was there ready to go. So got it downloaded.
Excellent.
I did my phone. My wife did hers and her iPad mini, and that's all we've done so far. She's got an Apple Watch Series 1, which, as we've discussed, was a replacement, free replacement for under warranty for her original Apple Watch. So we'll probably do that a little bit later on. Yeah, the phone here, and I'll have some reports tonight. Really, really working through it. The software certainly seems snappier. I did have one crash already. That caused it to reboot to the lock screen, and so
the only weird thing I had was when the phone came up. The phone app was showing that I had a voicemail message, so I went out and I'll see what's in voicemail. Well, it wouldn't let. It said, connect to voicemail, which was a bad sign because normally it just goes right in there. And so I tapped on this thing or call voicemail, I guess is what it said. So it called voicemail and it says, please enter your password. Well, I had no idea what my password was for voicemail. No way, no idea. It's probably been 5 years since I've had to enter one. And finally, I had to get on the AT&T website and force a reset on the voicemail password. But, other than that, it's been working just fine. It's been really working good.
Yeah, I agree. It's been very good. And there's probably, if we want to, I could do a couple little demos. One thing I'm really excited about is screen recording. So I can record all my Angry Birds sessions and post them online for the trove of viewers. I'm, of course, being a little sarcastic there, but I do enjoy playing some of the casual games like that. And so I've been testing recording a little bit. I haven't looked at the logs, which, the iPhone does, of course, keep the logs. You have to dig a little, but it probably was a springboard crash the way it looked, because I was doing a few things and I quickly switched to take a photo. Suddenly it went black, little bit of a spinning icon, and then I had to enter my password. Springboards used to count as a full reboot, but with that utility that I got that follows reboots, they do not anymore. They don't reset the reboot timer, for what it's worth. So I've read online of a few crashes, but I think it's really, really good first day. There were 10 betas? I'm sure most of the things have been worked out. So
yeah. Well, and the funny thing about it is I guess you could say in terms of the number of other updates we had today, and there I'm talking about a lot of app updates by the dozen.
Right,
I think
yeah.
one session, I looked and it was 17 updates, and another one was not as many. It was like 9 or 10. So 27 app updates, and that doesn't, count the ones that have been coming over the last few days. So developers have really been keeping up with this, which is great to see.
Yeah, and for, I'm sure all of our viewers, the type that would view us would know this, but iOS is no longer has any 32-bit luggage or baggage, we might say. No 32-bit apps are going to run. And so it's all 64 or nothing.
And we're happy to see that.
I really am. I didn't have any 32-bit apps remaining. And they had to run in an emulator anyway. They couldn't run at metal level. And so it was just another layer, which it worked good, but, they got rid of a lot of baggage here. So, and we'll touch on it. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
I was going to say, I think I found one 32-bit app before I did the updates, and it was a photography app that I had for years, and I don't think I've used it in years either. And I thought I had pretty much wiped everything out. Sure enough, I went in, got into settings, did the general, looked at the about, and under applications, there was that little caret over on the side. And I'm like, what's going on? Tapped on it, and it was this one app, and I went, I can throw that Hummer out. So definitely got rid of it. But it's good to kind of, we're in the future now until we go to 128-bit apps.
Yeah, 64-bit ought to covers for a while, but who knows? But I guess I like hardware, but I really do, I guess, more so like software, because software is what gives it its life. Otherwise it's a chunk of just a hot slab of metal and glass. And software really makes it come alive, and so much that they can do with it. So I'll have more to report next week. I did end up ordering one thing. I ordered the Apple TV 4K.
Yay!
I set an alarm for 5 minutes before order time. I didn't even need it. I woke up anyway. And so I was sitting there with it, ordered, still in bed, ordered on my phone with the App Store app, and got in immediately. And of course, it's supposed to be here Friday, which is first day of availability. So Dennis, I think he said he ordered at 5:45 a.m., which is pretty early, but his had slipped down into October. So,
wow.
I'm glad I got it early. So I've never had an Apple TV, and so looking forward, I'll stream it to the 4K TV here and see how it looks and how it does. And so I'm sure I'll have some reports next week. Yes, I am looking forward to some gaming. Some games are actually written for Apple TV, and of course you can just stream your screen of your phone to the television if you want to do that. So I'm gonna experiment, play around.
Yeah, my one purchase was to replace this guy with a whatever you want to call it, Series 3. I always want to call it, I've twice today or 3 times today, I've called it an Apple 3. Apple Watch 3, Series 3. But I've gone ahead and ordered that. It's supposed to be here Friday. I'm not going to be here Friday, so I think I'm probably waiting until Monday to actually get it. But I'm looking forward to it. It's, this has been a really good watch. But it's definitely, like in terms of the amount of time that it took to do the update today to watchOS 4, and you still see these little lags here and there, even with watchOS 4. It's going to be nice to have something that's much more responsive. So I'm looking forward to that.
And to say the least, cellular built in.
Yeah.
And so I'm not for sure if our carrier will be offering that or not. And if they do, that would be a tempting thing. But considering I literally have morphed into that little old lady selling her car that only goes to church on Sunday. There's a lot of weeks that's the only place I go is to church, because I do everything from here. And so I really don't have much need for that, because I'm so home based. But, sometimes out and about. So barring anything happening, I'll be traveling for Apple World Today next month, the Jamf conference in Minnesota.
Oh, that's right. That's coming up.
Yeah. So.
Oh, you guys, I think, everything about that conference sounds great. I've always loved their, excuse me, the Jamf solutions, just being able to go into a school system or, a facility that's got a lot of different Apple devices and be able to do that remote management and set up and, just kind of make everything easy. The mobile device management has always been a pain in the rear. I remember when I was working for IBM early 2000s, we were starting to see some mobile devices finally at that point. And they were totally at a loss. It's like, what are we going to do? How are we going to capture, the fact that this is an asset for this particular company? How are we going to set the email so that it's not hacked? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? And of course, we were using the Windows Pocket PC devices back in those days, and Palms. And it was like, there was no good way to do it. which is why so many companies ended up in the middle 2000s going to BlackBerry, because they were brilliant at that time. They were the only people who really had a way that somebody could go in, and if you had 5,000 employees and they all had BlackBerries, you could control them.
Right.
And now, even Apple really doesn't have a tool, but, fortunately, you've got companies like Jamf who they looked at the problem, they created a solution, and that solution is much better than anything Apple really could have created.
So that's probably what, yeah, I could use. Yeah. So I will be traveling a little bit for Apple World today. Boy, it reminds me, I've got to get you to send me a really good, crisp, super clear image of Apple World Today logo. I need to get a good embroidery shirt or two for up there. And so
I think I promised to do that one day and never got around to it.
Now, won't you be 60 this coming like Friday or so?
Yeah, you could say that.
I'm not saying that forgetting that has anything to do with it. I just wanted to sort of tie that all together. So it's okay if you do again.
Yeah, so, actually, I don't mind. I think it's a good milestone, because what that means is now when I go to some places, I can actually get a senior discount. So.
Yeah, my wife and I, it's probably been 5 years. We went through a Dairy Queen, and when we got up there, she said, "I gave y'all the senior discount." As before she even saw us, it was on my voice. I don't know if I sounded old and decrepit or what. So
that's mean.
Yeah, that's all right. So anyway, but I'm just aggravating you. But I thought we ought to give a shout out that by the time this is your last podcast in your 50s.
Yeah, I tell you. It's been a lot of podcasts in my 50s. It's been insane. Yeah, just thinking about that, 10 years. I think back in, it would have been about 2003 or 2004, right after the podcast quote unquote standards came out. I was real excited about it. And I was also really doing a lot of two things, bike riding and geocaching at the time. So I started up a geocaching podcast, and it was actually doing really well. And for some reason, I just got to a point, I said, this, one couple that lived out in San Diego, and they still do this podcast called The Podcasher. And it is phenomenal. It's still well done. They had a newborn at the time. The newborn is now much larger than a child. But, I keep thinking, if I really should have stuck that out and kind of kept with that podcast, because I think it would have thrived, as more and more people suddenly got into that. But at the time, it was like, not that many people listening. I'll turn it off.
Yeah, right. But back to the updates today, I don't have any really demos per se, but thought I might talk about some of my favorite features and everything coming up. But we both watch or read a lot of blogs. What's your takes on people's thought on the new phones? I see the iPhone X getting rave previews, I should say.
Yeah.
As well as some people are just adamant about the notch drives them absolutely insane, the lack of symmetry, So I guess we'll see once it gets in people's hands.
Yeah, I found it interesting. There was one review, preview that I read, and it was from somebody who had been at the Apple event and got a chance to actually hold the iPhone X, and they were playing with it. And person was saying, well, when I'm using it in portrait mode, it doesn't bother me. It looks fine. But when I turn it into landscape mode, it's just horrible. It's unbalanced and it looks stupid. And Steve Jobs would have never done this. And, they went through this entire long tirade about it. And my thought is, are you obsessive compulsive or something? And knowing the person who it was, and I'm not going to mention any names, yeah, the person is normally pretty obsessive compulsive. And I think the fact that it wasn't just perfectly balanced side to side is really driving this guy nuts. Me, I don't care. It's, in
Yeah.
fact, one thing I can't wait for that iPhone 10. Frankly, I thought the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus would be pretty much like a rehashing, except with some, new upgraded features and a little bit faster processor, but kind of a rehash of what I already have. The iPhone 10 is going to be very, very different. I've got a ton of cases that I've been testing here and writing reviews of. And when I took one of those cases and held it up to this screen, and it covered the screen, and that entire case was pretty much going to be screen. There wasn't going to be this. There wasn't going to be this down at the bottom. Suddenly realized I've got a much smaller phone that's not going to weigh as much. It's going to sit in my pocket. And, I've just gotten rid of, how much? An inch, over an inch of height there. It's going to be phenomenal.
Well, it is.
And,
I'm looking forward to it. I don't, the notch to me is just going to disappear. It looks fine. It'll disappear into the display. You won't think a thing about it. What I'm most looking forward to is the fact of it being an OLED display. And just the fact any of these would have filled this bill, but a 6-core processor, that's, you've seen some of the benchmarks with people who got review units. Produced units that came out on some sites today. And the benchmarks are now surpassing some of the MacBooks.
Yeah. That is so unbelievable when you think about it, because we're kind of used to, phones were here, watches were way down here. Phones were here, even the high-end ones. Macs were in this zone. And then, of course, you had the, Mac Pro that was somewhere around here. And now all of a sudden you've got this blurring of the iPhone, Power, iPad, and the Mac, in terms of really the raw processing power. And it really says a lot for, some of the patents that Apple has gotten in the past where, and one thing that I know Dennis would love, I wish he was here tonight because I know he'd get all excited about it. But one idea that he had at one point, and I think, it was kind of a carry-on of some of the stuff that he had seen in some of the Apple patents, was essentially like a Mac or a display that you'd just take your iPhone and you would kind of, hook it in there, and all of a sudden you had this, massively powerful machine. And that's not that far-fetched anymore to think about something like that. Frankly, I don't think you'd actually plug it in. I think you would just have the iPhone, this box sitting near a large smart screen like this 27-inch screen that I've got here. And all of a sudden you got a nice big screen, you've got a keyboard, you've got a mouse if you want to, but you're still using this little device that's sitting next to you as the processor. So could happen.
Yeah. I think it's going to relatively soon. Just to mention some of the competition, of course, you realize Samsung has a device called the DeX, D-E-X.
Yeah.
You set your Samsung phone in it, and then it looks different than the phone operating system. It goes to the screen. Pardon me, still a few issues here. But I think Apple, would have obviously, I feel, a far better experience. And you just, get your phone close. Suddenly it appears on the screen, the keyboard and everything. I'd be willing to drop it into a charger or something, but I think it will be wireless. But I think that is going to come. I think that's the reason they're pushing the iPad so much as a laptop, because they eventually are going to blur the lines where we'll have one device that will carry, they'll be our everything all the time.
Speaking of which, that was one thing I was really looking forward to today was actually getting my iPad Pro 10.5 inch, getting that updated to iOS 11, because so far I've been kind of running iOS 11 on what I would call a crippled device, and that's a second generation iPad mini. Putting it onto the iPad Pro really showed me some fantastic things. I'm still, kind of working my way through some of the new gestures and some of the new things that you can do. But I was playing around with. You can set up. I'm trying to remember what they call them, spaces, which are the shared. Like for instance, I want to have a writing app here, and I want to have Safari here. And I can set those up, and that actually ends up showing up in my app switcher. So if, I'm working on something else like email or something, and I say, oh, well, I need to work on this post now, I can go over, swipe up to the screen, go to the app switcher, go like that, and there's my side-by-side screen setup that I wanted. Really nice. I mean, I was surprised really how good it looks on there. Oh, and one other thing. This is totally off topic, but you know what occurred to me today?
What's that?
Touch ID, right now, the only machine it's really on is the MacBook Pro. And I think that's the last device we're ever going to see Touch ID on, because I think it's much smarter to build Face ID into this thing up here.
Right.
And I got a funny feeling we're not going to see Touch ID for much longer, or maybe even the Touch Bar on the MacBook Pro.
Maybe not. So probably using the camera. I'll be eager to see how Face ID works. There is a possibility, and I've got a good reason. I mean, I love the phone. There's a possibility that I might not upgrade this year. And the reason being, on a second tier carrier, with it not coming out till November 3rd, everybody will get it November 3rd. There's a good chance I won't get it till maybe down December, even January. If it goes to January or February, that's half of the next upgrade cycle. And if I do it then, I'll knock myself out of next year's phone. So if it goes past the first of the year, I'm almost going to have to wait. I mean,
that makes sense.
Yeah, I want it, but I don't want to get it and then have 6 months before I can upgrade come next September, or October, and then can't do it. So I've done that once before. I've skipped an upgrade cycle. And so I might this time.
I was going to say, it's kind of funny because, a lot of times when there's a big jump like this, it's almost makes sense to kind of wait. And, I hate to say that because I'm going to jump on that iPhone 10 as quickly as I possibly can. But, sometimes you say, oh, I'm going to jump on this. And then, of course, the next generation comes out. And what I think we'll see in that next generation is probably a much improved camera, because that's the one thing that they changed a little. They fine-tuned it. They've done some things, faster focusing, and just a couple of things internally too. The Photos app being able to do those wonderful portraits where it kind of blacks out the background and does those cool things. But they really fundamentally haven't changed the camera all that much. It's still 12 megapixels. Mm-hmm. And I would expect that, next year they're going to be looking at it. Well, what can we do? Well, why don't we look at, we'll go to this, LG has a 16 megapixel module. We'll put those in, and, it'll improve that resolution that much, do all the rest of these great things. So might be worth waiting, dude.
Well, I hate not to have the latest, greatest, but they say, supplies, of course, people don't know, but I think supplies will be constrained. I said probably won't catch up till probably in the first half of 2018. If I have to wait that long, I'm not going to knock myself out of next September. I'll just watch other people use it and all the YouTube apps on it and just wait, And And
Yeah,
so
and what'll
I
happen to all
can,
of us who are waiting until November is, they'll come out with the next generation of the iPhone 10. Let's call it the iPhone 11 just for the heck of it. They'll come out with that next version in September,
right.
and all of us who are on the Apple upgrade plan, who were, waited until October, November to actually do the update to the iPhone 10, we'll be waiting until
Right.
November of next year. So
That's one of
you'll
the
be the
reasons.
first one to
Yeah.
get it.
I don't know. I may not be able to wait, but if it goes past first of the year, I think I'll definitely have to. Uh, which isn't that long away, far away. If the iPhone, I think I've probably, some of the viewers are probably cringing. I think I've said iPhone X a few times. I still cannot get that big X out of my mind. I know it's 10, but
I don't feel bad. This afternoon, I was, in fact, that's why I think I'm finally saying iPhone 10 now. This afternoon, at least 6 or 7 or 8 times, I said iPhone X, and then I went 10, 10, hit my hand.
X is such a good, powerful sound. I thought they should have gone with that. It's like Plan 9 from Planet X or something.
Yeah.
It's not, uh,
That's
but
perfect.
I think if the iPhone 8 Plus had OLED, I would probably go with it, to probably get a little bit earlier. That is the kicker. I mean, Face ID is fine, but I'm really not too interested in that at this point. The OLED is what I really, really am looking forward to because I've used OLED phones. I've used Samsung phones that have them, and they're absolutely stunning displays compared to LCDs. And so I look forward to it.
Yeah, Barb's actually available for an upgrade, or an upgrade's available for her. Saying she's available doesn't sound good. But anyway, she should be eligible. That's what I meant,
That
for
sounds
an
good
upgrade.
there.
And, I kind of told her, I said, she's got an iPhone 6S. And I said, you might want to just hold on until the 10 comes out. And of course, it was funny because last weekend when I was writing up one of those reviews, and I really ought to run over and grab one of those cases so you can see how much smaller the iPhone 10 is to this guy
Yeah,
without
well, feel free.
really losing much.
I'll entertain our
Yeah,
audience here.
juggle or something.
Yeah.
Be
I
right
don't
back.
know if I'll do that or not, but yeah, it's going to be hard not to get it. But being with a regional carrier, I will have to wait at least a week, and then availability is going to be an issue. So I don't know. I'm excited. I'll be eager to see all the breakdowns and fix-its and uh, people that tear it apart and everything. And being geeky the way we are, I think one of the things that I most look forward to is probably just pushing that 6-core processor to its limit. I want to see how good it can play Angry Birds. No, it'll do everything beyond that. Something we've commented on before. And if I had audience with Apple executives, I would probably ask them to consider this. And then they would say, who are you? But as much processing power as we have, at least give the option to enable or disable. We both have talked about active icons to indicate weather and change and like it.
Yes.
We've got the processing power of a laptop in our hands. So I think we really need to push the home screens beyond static images, some live icons, live widgets. And they say, well, it would be a battery hit, and it may be, but let people enable or disable. I'm always around power. I would love to be able to have the phone really show what it can do.
Yeah, or if Apple was really smart, they come out with a Apple branded, whatever you want to call it, webcam of some sort that you can stick in your window, and it links up to your network. And what you could do is have your current conditions at your home at look and see, oh, look, there's a burglar walking up to my front door.
Right.
On your home screen. Anyway, here's this side-by-side comparison. This is an iPhone 10 case over here from Silk Innovations, and this is my iPhone 7 Plus there. Notice
That is
Okay.
amazing.
Yeah, and
That was
consider
worth
that.
having you leave to get that.
Yeah, and think about that. That's
Yeah.
actually a little bit more screen space there on the iPhone 10 and a much smaller device. And I just, when I saw that, and the fact that the case for the iPhone 10 is much thinner than well, and this is a really thin case that I've got on here, but it's much thinner than the iPhone 7 Plus. That's going to be, once again, kind of getting back to a small phone, big screen.
That's
So I'm
amazing.
happy.
So the bottom line, we're going to have a smaller phone, but a larger screen. That's
You
really
got it.
almost paradoxical. But it's pretty
Yeah, and I
amazing, really.
got to hand it to, I had to laugh at this, but, talk about brave. A lot of these companies, I got stuff, these various cases from them. And I just thought this was great because you look at this thing and it says, this is the base grip for iPhone 8. And what they
I saw it
did
said
when they
Kung
actually,
Fu grip there.
when it came out, they had this sticker on there.
iPhone X.
Yeah, and it says, just kidding, we meant for iPhone 10. So they were, this company has got a great sense of humor. And
So
I
what
thought
they
that was
have on the
just cute.
packaging on the outside?
Oops. Excuse me just a second. I've got a phone ringing here. Yeah, that's nobody. Yeah, on this one it said, for iPhone 8. And then this one, I don't know if I can get that close and still have it be legible. But it says, just kidding, or JK, we meant
Yeah,
the iPhone 10.
that's pretty good. They were hedging their bets and didn't quite make it there a little bit. So.
Yeah. So at least all they had to do was print up a bunch of stickers, but that's pretty cute.
Yeah, that is. So what have you found? Well, I was going to ask, what's your favorite things on iOS 11, since that's the big news today? Any big changes or?
Well, on the iPad, especially on the iPad Pro, the dock really makes it seem a lot more Mac-like. It's just like having the dock, in the mode where you have to move your cursor down over the bottom of the screen to actually have, when you're hiding your dock. It's very similar to that. But you can be in any app and you say, wow, I need to bring up this other app. You go swipe, tap, and it's done. The thing that really amazes me, and I can't wait to get OS 10 Sierra or High Sierra on this MacBook here, is that what it will do. You see the dock icons for the things that you normally, are using quite a bit. And then it'll show a couple of icons to the right side that are most recently used apps. So it makes it really easy to jump back to those. And then it also shows apps that you've used recently on either other devices or other Macs. So I was kind of playing around with it a little bit, and I was getting, for instance, you'd look at it and it would show, oh, well, you had Safari open on this particular web page on your Mac, and it was on my MacBook Pro, which is already updated to High Sierra. And by tapping on that, it brings up that page. So very, very cool. It kind of takes that handoff process and brings it to another level. I think it makes it much more understandable, because a lot of times people are going, what's this icon showing up here? Now you kind of, you say, oh, that's right. I had Safari open over on my Mac. I want to be able to, look at that page that I was looking at over there, tap, and it's there. So that to me was a big thumbs up. Very cool feature there. Of course, the new control center is very, very cool. Just being able to go in and change it to the way you want. And people from the Android world, a lot of them are saying, "Oh, we've been able to do that for years," but not with the I think the level of capability, the level of true functionality that you need.
Well, it just looks better. Back to your icon going from device to device, that is I guess, one big thing for me with Apple devices is the synergy between everything working together.
Yeah.
I love sitting down at my desk here and having a Mac, get a text, iMessage, or Android text even can respond right back from my Mac, and everything just working together. I especially love if I've gone to a website. I think I'd mentioned this. My wife and I had a meeting about some of her retirement stuff, and I had to enter a password on some site, and I was elsewhere where I didn't have it. But because both were Apple devices, it was already entered in there. I didn't even have to dig or think about it. I love stuff like that. So,
because you're going, oh man, what's my password for this? And then it fills it in and you go.
Right. I really like that. And I do feel secure with it. If you want, we've got about 15 minutes or so left on the hour, and I'll give maybe just a quick little preview of Screen Record if you want to. A feature.
Oh, please do. And just before you start, I did want to bring up one thing. That same functionality that they're using for Screen Record, I don't know how many of our viewers are familiar with TeamViewer, but we just got an email from TeamViewer today, and they're coming out. They have a way that you're going to be able to, I don't know if you can control it, but you can at least view a remote iOS device now using kind of that sub functionality that they're using in there. And that is great for people who need to support these devices. They can actually, say, oh, yeah, well, I see what you're doing there and you're doing it wrong. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I'm glad you said that, because that's one of the things that I have done most. I keep TeamViewer as a client on my iPhone and the Mac to help other people, and even on the iPad. They often, will you take a look at my computer, and I can get on and view or control. And I think TeamViewer for the iPhone, you won't be able to control. Apple's pretty tight, close about that. But just to be able to see their phone and say, tap this, tap that. Okay, let me go ahead and share this screen and just give a quick. Now that the new iOS is out, I'd like to have maybe a little demo each week until we can milk it dry. And I love doing the little demos. And let me go ahead and share this screen over here. I've already got it queued up. Okay. There
we are.
The screen that y'all are familiar with. And of course, you slide up and see your brand new, I hadn't seen that. It says dock connector. I guess that's because I'm plugged into the Mac. That's interesting.
Huh. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I wonder what it does if I hit it. So if I disappear, we'll see y'all next week. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So that's interesting. So I usually say screen mirroring. And of course, this is the new control panel. I'll just give a quick.
It's still showing that.
Sure is.
The screen mirroring. That's hard to say.
Yeah, let me just stop sharing. All right. Try to get back to it here. Okay, looks like I'm going to have to unplug and plug back in. Okay, live TV here.
That's what's fun about live TV. Hey, even Apple has problems.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure Craig was a little embarrassed when that first phone didn't work quite the way he wanted it to,
Yeah.
And it's understandable because apparently it had been rebooted.
Well, and I guess they thought it was actually some cleaners, people that were cleaning the equipment went up and
I had not heard that.
Yeah, recognize them. It didn't recognize the face as Craig's, and so it said, "Hey, put in your password, your passcode here."
Well, that was interesting. So that is actually good security. Let me just close QuickTime and reopen. I apologize for this, but
no problem.
All right, let's go with. Let me plug in my phone here. Hopefully, I can get it going back this time. All right, new movie. All right, it's going to work this time, I do think. Says operation could not be completed. It's not going to let me broadcast the phone to the screen. Huh.
What?
Maybe a little bug here in iOS 11, but after I did that, I can do the camera on the Mac here. But whenever I select the camera as the phone, which is what you have to do, it simply will not do it. So I'm going to have to force quit again, quick time. And I don't know if it's going to work at all.
Well, while you're rebooting, I'll do a quick demo, and I'm going to show people something here. This was actually kind of a birthday present to myself, and it was fairly inexpensive. But you probably know that I'm kind of getting an interest in drones, and I thought, eventually I'd like to get a fairly robust drone. I've got two smaller ones, one that I purchased and one that was sent to me for testing that doesn't do too well. But I kept thinking, I really ought to learn I wish I could learn to fly one of these before I actually have a drone that I can crash. And sure enough, I went out and I started looking for flight simulator programs for drones, and I found a company that has a product called Zephyr Sim. And they also have this nice little thing, which is a drone controller. And the fun thing about it is that you can hook it in via a micro USB connector to USB to a Mac to an app that they have that runs on the Mac, and you can learn to fly a drone with all the controls and everything there. So I've been spending like 15, 20 minutes a day just sitting there going, and not being a inveterate gamer like you. It's kind of, I wouldn't say I'm uncoordinated, but I'm not as smooth as some people would be.
I'll just leave that comment stand. I have forced rebooted my phone, so it's still coming back up. We'll see if it works this time. All right.
But yeah, one of these shows, I'll do a demo of it because it's a really amazing simulation. You can actually simulate weather. You hear sounds in the background and everything. Pretty good simulator.
Right. I've got my phone rebooted, so let's see if it does it this time. If it is, that's an interesting little bug there. The operation could not be completed. It will not let me do it. It seemed like this happened once before whenever I was recording some gameplay, and I think the only way I was able to do it was finally end up rebooting the Mac.
You've got it hooked into your device there?
Yeah, but I got it going now.
Mac. I do. There's a way that you can, in the Zoom app, you can share iPhone, iPad via AirPlay or via cable. Oh, it came up. So never mind.
It. Yeah. I did have to reboot the phone. All right. So I'll just quickly, we've got about 10 minutes left on an hour here. So to show you, of course, that's the new control panel there. I will not hit screen mirroring or dock connect. So there's
it's interesting that dock connector is animated.
Yeah, I know. And so I'm not going to touch it. I've got one new icon there that I did add, but let me show you where you customize this. You go into settings, and then you go down to the control center. Tap it, customize controls. And here's the things that you can add. You can also, some things you can't take, but you can rearrange. And one thing that I did add, the only thing, is screen recording. You see there at the top. And so I added that. So let's go back now and call this up. So when I call it up, now if I press, it's going to do a countdown and start recording. If I press and hold, and it will give me options. Do you want to record the microphone with the screen as well? And then simply start recording. I'm not going to do the microphone. I'm going to show you what a regular recording. I just tap it. It counts down 3, 2, 1. All right. And there we go. It starts recording. I do not know if it's going to do it since we're on here because we're sort of recording a recording. You know what? And
Yeah.
but that's how. But it. I don't believe it's going to. But that's how that you do it. Apparently, it's not going to let me record while we're recording. I suspected that might be an issue. I'll tell you what I will do. I'll disconnect here and just try to show you in front of the camera. It won't be nearly as good. But so what that I will do is just slide up. And if you press, it's going to count down.
3, 2, 1.
Yeah, I don't have it very good at all. But it's now red right there. Let me get back a little bit. Well, I'm not getting a good picture. There you can see it's red and flashing now.
Yeah.
And then across the top of the screen, there'll be a red bar, if you can see it.
Yeah.
That shows the screen is recording. I'll do a little bit, I'll do a little bit of movement around. Sorry for such a poor demo, but I'll just do a little bit of sliding. Okay, I tap the stop now and hit stop recording. And then it will save it to the camera roll. So I'll go over to photos in my movies or videos. And sure enough, here I just did for 32 seconds. And it's now playing back. I'll just let it play. It does record the screen.
That is so cool.
So,
because I try to think of the number of times that I've had to hook things up to another, a computer or use some sort of, that's neat.
Well, that wasn't a very good demo, but I cannot do it directly. And so, because it didn't look very good. So, but next week I'll try to have
some though. Get
tips,
the idea.
Yeah, on iOS 11 that don't record. I think it was balking at recording a recording, and it just was too many inputs. So,
yeah, that's one thing about iOS that's always been really weird. Like if you tried doing a podcast with another audio source coming in, and it's still this way. If you, like for instance, you want to have Skype running and you want to, be using something like Zoom to broadcast more than one voice coming in to a single line, won't let you do it. And I think that's something they probably need to address if they anticipate iOS kind of pushing ahead.
Right. Yeah, they seem to be, really blocking out other things. I understand security and using their devices and everything, and it's not going to be an open, operating system, obviously like Windows or something. But, you need a little bit more openness there. So I apologize. My demo failed. No, I'm coughing. This is not going to be, probably one of my best evenings here.
Well, all I can say is I could see what was going on there with the screen. And
so, hopefully, if anyone has any questions, just post about it. But the screen recording actually works quite nice. You can do the microphone with or without, so you can do a voiceover. And I really do like that idea. I'm going to check into that about TeamViewer.
The one thing I can see is going to be a great help for people who are just doing what I call supporting mom and dad, or supporting your wife or friend or somebody. And they ask you a question and say, well, how do you do this? And they're over on the other side of town. But just being able to pick up your iPhone, start the recording, say, oh, here's what you want to do. You want to tap on this. You want to do this. You want to do this. You want to swipe here. You want to put your name in there. And that's how you do it. And then you can take that little video and send it to them through messages, and they can watch that and go, oh, I get it. Understand what's going on. That's a big leap in how people are going to start supporting these devices.
Well, not only that, and I may do a little brief video demo for next week or two. You could not only demo, but with the annotations built within photos, you should be able to draw boxes or arrows while the movie is playing. Click on this box and draw a red arrow to it, things like that.
Hey, one thing I thought was really kind of cool is that we now have an adjustable flashlight.
Yep. That is
And
pretty
we've
nice.
had it before, but it wasn't as easy. On the iPhone 7 Plus here, actually, if you do a force touch on there, it brings up, or a 3D touch, whatever the heck it's called, it brings up this slider, and then you just slide up and down. One thing I found out today, too, was for the first time they've added a flashlight. Whoops. Sorry, I bumped my screen there. But they actually added a flashlight to the watch.
Okay, neat.
And let me see if I can find this again. It's under, I think it's under, no, it wasn't under settings. Never mind. Where did I find it? There we go. If you swipe up from the bottom on the screen or the watch face here, it comes up, you can see a little flashlight icon. And if you hit flashlight, you get this. There's also a flashing light. You can see it flashing on and off there. And then for the amateur astronomers, you have a red light. Of course, it kind of looks orangish, but it is actually a very deep red. And kind of cool for those situations where you're looking for something under the bed or something, and you need a flashlight immediately. Now you'll just have to go, hit your watch, tap.
Well,
Oops,
that
it went
is if you're
off.
trying to find a keyhole or something, or a lock, and just a quick illumination.
Yeah, so they get a thumbs up on that one. I didn't even know about that, and I was playing around, and I went, "There's a flashlight on there."
It is pretty neat. So
little things impress me very much.
well, I'm sure I've just loaded today, and well, you know how that I've been on some of our podcasts. I love finding these little minute hidden things, so I'm going to really scour it out and see what I can find for next week, and try to have a decent little demo of some treasures hidden within iOS 11.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really fun next week, is because by that time, we will have really had an opportunity to play with these things and find things that are either, hey, I still can't figure this one out, why it's not working, or most likely it's going to be, I found this, and you're going to go, oh, wow, when you see it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
I think we're both going to have some surprises next week.
I think so. Things we don't even know yet. It may just be me, but does it look like the apps swoop in a little differently? I mean, I'm overdoing it, but it's almost like they come from the top and down and back up. Sometimes whenever you open certain things, there's just a little subtle, and you close, it's a slight subtle. The animation just seems different. It may just be me.
It does seem different. You're right.
It's not just coming out, but sort of a down then up, just very subtle.
Yeah, kind of swooping in now.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. That's something I didn't even notice, but yeah, it is absolutely doing that. Wow, and it's cold outside. Sorry, I happened to bring up Weather Underground, and it's 56 degrees here.
It is cool.
It was 92 today. Oof. What do you?
I encourage everybody to tune in next week, because I think we're going to have some hidden gems that we will unearth over the next week.
Ooh, we can call it the. Excuse me. Maybe I'm getting your pneumonia, but we can call it the, the mining expedition or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I sure hope you don't on pneumonia.
Yeah, me either. Not with my birthday coming up.
Yeah. Well, I hate you had to be gone on your birthday and miss your watch. It'll be just sitting out there in the cold, lonely porch. I hope not. So
sad, isn't it? But great. Now, anybody in the area who's watching this will, be sitting across the street. There it is. Go get it.
But well, maybe you can work it out to still come back and get it. But I should get the Apple TV Friday, so next week I'll have a report on that, and some iOS 11 treasures. So I think we're going to have a good show next week.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to what you have to say about the 4K HDR capabilities. of the new Apple TV because, like I said, I kind of look at that as right now. I have the old second generation. I don't even have the fourth generation Apple TV. And I've kind of been going, well, do I really want to upgrade? Do I really want to do this? And this, the announcement that they made really did kind of push me just a little bit further towards getting a 4K UHD TV and getting one of the new Apple TVs. So I can't wait to hear what you have to say about it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Just see what they offer. I don't have a base of comparison. I don't have one of the old ones, so it's going to be all new to me.
Well, and the one thing I can only hope is that sometime within the next 5 or 6 months, somebody comes out with a watch band with a built-in video camera that works with the Series 3 Apple Watch. So one of these days I can just be out walking around in the dark and doing a live stream.
Yeah, exactly. So
if we can get the folks at Zoom to write a Apple Watch app. Well, I think that's it for this week. Marty, as usual, it's just a lot of fun sitting down with you and talking.
Yeah, you too.
For an hour. And one of these days, we've got to see if we can get that guy named Dennis, somebody.
Yeah. I still picture those old Love Boat shows where special guest star, they just appear in a circle up there. That's what we need to fix up for Dennis, not even let him know.
Yeah. Special guest star.
Yeah.
Dennis Sellers.
Dennis has had a busy time and a lot of funerals and other things.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. So we'll carry the torch for him till he returns.
Well, I tell you, that's one of the, the bad things. I was talking about turning 60, and, one of the bad things about, well, I won't say bad things. One of the inevitabilities of getting to be this age is that you start going to a lot more funerals, and not always good, but it's part of life.
That's right. So I look at one thing it is impossible for me to do. I cannot die young. So I've made it to a certain point.
Me too.
Though I am the younger of the trio here, so I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, you are the kid in the group here. So.
And kid is relative, trust me.
Well, we'll see everybody next week. And as usual, if you like the show, just give us one of those little thumbs up on YouTube. That always helps. And also share with people. And last but not least, we don't get all that many live viewers. I don't know if it's the timing or what's going on here, but if you join us occasionally for one of the live shows, one thing we'd like to be able to do is actually open up Zoom so that other people can come on in. And we'd be more than happy to have guests on the show, not only guests who are, names in the tech field, but also just our friends, get people on here and have a chat with them. So that's something that, we'd really like to start doing here pretty quickly. Maybe next week. Who knows? Thanks a bunch, Marty. And we'll see you next week.
It.
Keep getting over that pneumonia.
I'm sure I'll be 100% next week.
Awesome, dude. And I did it one more time.
There we go.